evening. We'll go our land acknowledgement on February 27th, 2023. We acknowledge that this sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. The land is an ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin and the Manishi Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and the water in order that we might meet here today. We are also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in making the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. Pardon me. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. So moving on into our meeting, amendments to the agenda. I do believe we have some. Nadine Bennett, please. Deputy Clerk.
Yes, Madam Chair, with council support, staff request that priority issue 8.6 be added. That's the amendment to building services report, as well as item 8.7, which is the water tower site clearing report. 8.6 will be with Fire Chief Rick Cheeseborough, and 8.7 will be with Director McMunn.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sorry, Peter. Yes.
Councillor McKenna. I just wondered if my colleagues or staff would have any objection to moving our in-camera item to the end after our priority issues. And just to, I think it might be more convenient for staff and for the public watching, but I'll leave that up to you and my colleagues.
Is there any reason why that should not be able to go? We can have it at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Does that
Thank
work
you.
for staff? Just okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McKenna, for that. So moving on, CAO and directors reports. Do we have anything tonight?
Oh.
We do, Madam Chair, but I would just point out that item 3, we have a delegation this evening first.
Yes.
And sorry, Madam Chair, prior to that, could we do disclosure of monetary interests, please?
Thank you. Yes, disclosure of monetary interest.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yes, I'll declare an interest in item 8.7, the clearing of the land for the water tower site, as my firm has a professional relationship with the proponent.
Thank you for that. Anything else? Yes, we do have a delegation this evening, and we have Leslie Richardson here with us from the Smith Falls Chamber of Commerce. And our topic is visitor services. Leslie, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the council. It is my honor to be here today to represent the chamber. We are passionate about ensuring that our town remains a vibrant and exciting place to visit. And I'm here to present a proposal that I believe will drive significant growth for our community. I hope to be less than 5 minutes this evening. And bear with me while I share my screen. We are here this evening to ask council to once again review our proposal for a cantina in Victoria Park and to revisit the conversation with Parks Canada. And to start a discussion, understanding that if a cantina is not a viable option within Vic Park, to review the terms of service in the fee-for-service agreement, as it is no longer financially viable for the chamber. We believe that our parks are not just parks and should be a place of vibrancy for tourists and a hub of community life, a place to toss a frisbee, grab a bite to eat, and enjoy the view. Now more than ever, with the recent news of Canopy Investing in our tourism and ensuring we showcase our world-class heritage site has never been more important. Sadly, too many visitors are parking at the visitor center, taking a quick walk around, and then moving onwards to another community. We can change this, but only if we take the necessary steps to improve their experience. In 2022, the Chamber received unanimous support for a cantina that was not supported by Parks Canada. The canal is a hub of commercial activity from Kingston to Ottawa, both in the summer and winter, with the ability to rent a kayak and paddle boards and to enjoy food from multiple food trucks. I think we can all conjure up fond memories of children skating and being rewarded with the beaver tail. Parks Canada is allowing food vendors on or near the canal in other communities, and we need to better understand why Smith Falls is not being supported in creating meaningful tourist attractions. Not everyone can afford a private boat or a boating vacation. Creating equitable experiences on land is vitally important. In their 2022 management plan, Parks Canada's key strategies include working in collaboration with others to animate, market, and promote the Rideau Canal, and further, to collaborate with communities, community groups, Indigenous partners, not-for-profit organizations, businesses, and the broader tourism industry. We believe that our proposal is aligned with these strategic goals and will enhance the waterfront experience. Tourists arriving at the visitor center are most often without children. Our parks are not designed to entertain adults, a costly oversight. A cantina will allow our guests to experience the canal while planning their next local adventure. And we can continue to improve upon these experiences by adding mini animations like music and games. The cantina will animate the park and create vibrancy in an underused space by engaging the community, promoting longer stays, and encouraging repeat visits. Proposed location number 1 for the cantina is where the existing play structure resides. However, it has come to our attention that the new play structure may very well be placed here. Proposed location number 2 is any suitable leased land from the town from Parks Canada within Victoria Park that would allow for 1,300 square feet for us to place the cantina, the patio, and have a view of the canal. Proposed location number 3 is on our own public docks. Instead of preparing food on land, we can create a unique experience with a pontoon boat. We believe that this is a unique draw and that our guests could be more fully immersed in the experience of the canal. The Chamber is a nonprofit organization that is celebrating 134 years of service to our business community. 2022 was a remarkably successful year, and we were honored to grant $100,000 to downtown businesses. We also supported day tourism with the introduction of RibFest, which saw over 5,000 attendees. And we play an integral role in business attraction. We also continue to improve visitor services. Each season, the Chamber provides a turnkey visitor service experiences for the town of Smith Falls. As champions of local business, we are best suited to provide these services. In 2022, we entered into a 5-year agreement with the town of Smith Falls to provide visitor services at Victoria Park, with the provision of food services via cantina. At that time, we articulated that additional revenue generation was needed, and our position has not changed. The fee for service, combined with income from boat mooring, is not a sustainable undertaking for the Chamber. While our successes have been numerous, our sustainability is very much threatened, and if we cannot pursue creative solutions that support both tourism and Chamber growth, it might be time to hand over visitor services to the town to manage. The Chamber remains deeply committed to finding a solution that benefits our community and our local businesses. Thank you for your attention tonight, and we do look forward to working together.
Thank you, Leslie. Do we have questions, comments? Councillor McKenna, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks, Leslie, for this report. It is disappointing because I do recall giving full support from Council for the Chamber's proposal last time. And with the information you've provided, it appears another disappointment from our friends at Parks Canada. I would support or request that staff work with the chamber and come back with some kind of a proposal from staff to engage Parks Canada, because I agree with you, up and down the canal, there's both hard services that they've been discouraged in our community for cycling and mobility access. And the Cantina example, again, as you point out, in the city of Ottawa is, I know they're our capital, but we all live on that beautiful canal and we just want fairness. So I agree with you and congratulate the chamber on hanging in there through this difficult time. And I look forward to hearing what staff's comments and some way of resolving this so that the chamber can move ahead and get that revenue and that great experience. The revenue is important, I understand, but we're all interested in keeping people and attracting people. So thank you very much.
Mayor Panko.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Leslie. And like Peter, I was supportive of the Cantina last year and agree enhancing our visitor and citizen experiences and around the water bring a lot of benefit. I love the concept of potentially making the Cantina on a barge or a pontoon boat or something on the water. I think it would really enhance a very unique experience. And as you illustrate in one of the earlier pictures of the canal in Ottawa, while they're permitting seasonal businesses on the canal during the winter, what's the difference between putting a seasonal business on the water in the summer? So as I guess we're all aware, we have ongoing dialogues with Parks Canada on a number of issues and a number of opportunities, from the Bascule Bridge being something that we've had planned to animate that for a period of time, to of course the history of Victoria Park, to I think our last strat plan and potentially within this strategic plan, finding a way to enhance the use of the old combined lock and to a unique visitor experience as well. So a lot of ongoing dialogue, and certainly I agree this should be added to that discussion. And I think we can try to do what we can to, I guess, accelerate the pace of that discussion to see about the possibilities here. And so I think the concept is great, and enhancing life here for visitors and citizens fits well with what the chamber is doing. As Peter says, the revenue is one thing, but it's more the matter of creating that enhanced experience. So I appreciate the presentation, and we will do what we can to help.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, I have to agree. My only concern is I think the Cantina sounds great. I think something on the water sounds fantastic. I just don't want to sit here too long and wait for Parks Canada to give us the go-ahead. I think we need to move swiftly on that and get things going, because I know it is hitting the 1st of March and it won't be very long and the weather will be getting nice. And if you're going to have something there, it needs to be in place. It needs to be in place and going. So let's see what we can do about really pushing and getting something where you can be. Now, CEO Morris, I'll ask you this. Is there property that they could go to that does not belong to Parks Canada, but is close to the water? Still have the same if they stayed on land? Just a general thought.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Madam Chair. Everything on the south shore of the canal in Victoria Park is owned by Parks Canada. So as the landowner, we are a leasee of that property. So we could certainly engage in the conversation as a leasee. I think what's important is that the previous council had endorsed the concept. So I think the first thing would be for this council to take a position on the concept before we engage with Parks Canada. But again, if you refer this to staff, we'll come back with a path forward.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just building on what you said, Madam Chair, there is a sense of urgency given that it is March this week. So CAO Morris, would it be wise for us to put this on priority items tonight for the endorsement and then come back with a staff report about next steps? Whatever way we can speed this up is probably wise.
Thank you.
Yeah, so great question. And through the chair, I would say we could probably package something up for next week. Next week's a council meeting, but looking at our deputy clerk, we could possibly do a special committee before the council meeting and deal with it at that point. So we have a growing list of things to talk to Parks Canada about. So I would suggest if council endorses the concept that we would add this to the list of items that we're discussing.
Thank you.
So I see nodding heads. Yes, this is added to the list for sure. Thank you, CEO Morris. And Leslie, thank you. And let's get working on this. Let's get you in there and get to making some money. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming. Okay, now I'll get back on track here and don't jump ahead of my my agenda that I'm supposed to be on. So now adoption of minutes, January the 30th, 2023 and February 6th, 2023, that the minutes of January 30th, 2023 and February 6th, 2023, committee of whole meetings be received and filed. And I need a mover and a seconder for that, please. And I have Councillor Robinson and Councillor Miller. Thank you so very much. Now we will move into CAO and directors' reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have two reports this evening, and the first comes from Julia Crowder.
Welcome, Julia.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Through you to Council, I just wanted to provide Council and the community with an update on the job fair. So we, after the announcement from Canopy of the recent layoffs, we worked with community partners to expedite a job fair to help support those directly affected by that, as well as our broader community in making those connections with employees and employers. So the job fair is scheduled for Wednesday, March 22nd from 2 to 7 p.m. at Settlers Ridge Mall. And I just wanted to recognize all the partners involved, including the Chamber of Commerce, the Small Business Center, Valley Heartland, the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, On Track, Canada, the Government of Canada, Employment Ontario, and the Ministry of Ontario as well. Our partners really rallied together in order to put this on in a really timely manner. So thanks again. And also to the Samir Group for allowing us to do the job fair at the mall and providing additional resources like tables and chairs for the event. Well, we will be doing additional promotion for job seekers in the coming weeks, but through the month of March, we'll continue to ask employers to register through On Track, as well as promoting to job seekers. And this is a Smith Falls and region job fair, so it has been opened up to other employers in and around Smith Falls.
Wonderful. Any questions? Just one briefly, what time was that again?
It's from 2 to 7 p.m.
Okay, thank you. All right. Councillor McKenna?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. Crowder. Can you tell me if our friends at Canopy are promoting this to their either outgoing staff or the staff that have already left? Are there some way that they're supporting the job fair as well?
Yeah, we provided them with the information, and they're working with On Track and Employment Ontario in order to do a rapid reemployment center. Some sessions will be set up in order to help connect with those who are going to be part of the next round of layoffs. Unfortunately, you know, they're not able to reconnect with their employees that were let go during the first round, but that's why we're really trying to market heavily to the community, and anyone who may know any of the families and individuals directly, they can pass on this information.
Thank you. And if I may, I just want to thank you for moving so quickly on this and getting it organized. And I know we'll be doing more than that, but to see, it gives me hope that, because I know there are other employers that they're looking for the good employees that are available. So I thank you for the quick action on this one.
You're welcome. And I'm happy to update that as of this morning, we have 26 employers registered. So we hope to be able to fill all 50 tables that are available.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much, Judy, for coming and making this presentation. And I know you will keep promoting it as well, and so can we. I thank you. Okay. CAO Morris, other reports?
Yes, the second one is from me. I have two items to talk about. The first, I'm absolutely delighted to introduce our newest employee. Her name is Myra Bauman, and Myra is our new Corporate Services Director and Treasurer. And Myra brings plenty of broader public sector experience to the job, and we're quite excited to have her. As you know, we had appointed an interim treasurer, and he's been away for a while, so Myra was able to start early and bridge that gap. So I'd like to introduce Myra to members of council here this evening and the broader community of Smiths Falls.
Welcome, Myra. Nice to have you here. Thank you.
So that's the good news. The lesser good news would be that tomorrow is the tax due date. So we, as many of you know, we have four installments rather. The interim bill is due, the first installment of the interim bill is due tomorrow at end of day. And I would like to remind the public that there are many ways to pay your tax bill. We certainly encourage the online payment. You can register on our online payment portal on the website. It's very simple. We also have a pre-authorized payment plan that you can register for. It's an automatic withdrawal from your account. You can pay by credit card, or of course you can drop it off at the drop box at Town Hall. And we're always delighted when people come in and pay their taxes. So there's many, many ways of paying your taxes. And I just want to remind that tomorrow is the deadline for the first installment. Thank you, Madam Chair. Those are my reports.
Anyone else have any reports this evening? No?
No, that's it.
That's all. So we can move on. And we do not have any correspondence items. And we'll move right on to priority issues. Renewal of agreement for Integrity Commissioner Services. And this is with with Clerk Costello, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bringing forward a report this evening, I'm looking for an extension to the current agreement we have in place with Cunningham Swan. The lead primarily is Tony Fleming, to extend our contract with them for the services of Integrity Commissioner. We've been using these services since 2018. As all of you know, the Integrity Commissioner investigates any applications filed for violations to the Code of Conduct. So with Council's concurrence, we'd like to bring forward a bylaw at our next regular meeting of Council to renew this agreement for another 5-year period. As we did back in 2017, when we initiated this agreement, we've worked with the other clerks in the County of Lanark, who will all be bringing similar reports forward to their municipalities. As a note, also, there are some minor changes being made to the Code of Conduct, primarily operational in nature, but we'll be bringing those forward at a later date. So this evening, we're looking just to extend our current arrangement with Cunningham Swan.
Any questions? No. Sounds like, oh, a thumbs up. You're getting thumbs up.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, moving on, we're treasurer appointment report, and this is with Deputy Clerk Bennett, please.
Good evening. Further to CEO Morris's announcement tonight and welcoming our Director Myra Bauman to the town of Smith Falls, I'm here to seek council approval to bring forward a bylaw to officially appoint Myra as the Treasurer and Director of Corporate Services. As well as further to that, you'll recall that council does pass a resolution to provide banking authorization so that staff can attend bank and perform banking duties. So that resolution would also be amended to remove former interim treasurer, Stephen Dickey, and include our new current treasurer, Myra Bauman, to that resolution as well. So if council supported, those two items would both come forward to next Monday's council meeting.
Questions? Nope, I see thumbs up.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Lovely.
Oh, Peter has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Councilor McKenna.
Councilor McKenna?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't mean to belabor this. I think it's an excellent choice. And I do, after the previous 4 years and the work that Smith Falls has got on its strategic plan, the complex environment that the municipality is working in. I looked at the background that the Ms. Bauman is bringing, and I think someone who's worked their way through the public education system and to rise to the top of the healthcare system, very complex files. And I know it's not just a treasurer hiring here; it's a director of with a broad portfolio, and I think that we're very fortunate to attract the kind of caliber that Ms. Bauman's bringing, and I think the complex environment she's coming out of really suits the town well, and I'm so excited about this, and I just congratulate CEO Morris for attracting this kind of caliber of a candidate, and gee, I'm just, because it's so much more than treasurer. And I think she'll just do a fantastic job.
Peter, thank you for that. You're very true. You're very right. It is. It's wonderful to have. Okay, now we'll move on. And this is an exemption to the procurement bylaw, sidewalk machines. And this is Director Paul McMahon, please.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, members of council. So this evening, I bring forward a report with respect to an exemption of the procurement bylaw for sole sourcing two very slightly used sidewalk plows with attachments. So right now in our public works fleet, we have two primary sidewalk machines that we employ for clearing sidewalks throughout the town for winter operations, winter control, if you will. The machines are a little bit older. They're prone to breakdowns. It seems we always have one or the other broke down at any point in time. So that does present a number of challenges. Excuse me. Talking with staff, we'd like to be in a position where we have three really good sidewalk machines to clear our sidewalks in the wintertime, to make sure we're meeting minimum maintenance standards, which is legislation that we have to meet. And, to provide that level of service throughout the community broadly throughout the community in terms of clearing sidewalks. So one of the breakdowns that we had earlier on in the year, we actually reached out to JD Brule Equipment, who is a supplier of multi-hog sidewalk machines and attachments. They were nice enough to bring one down for us to quote unquote demo. Now we demoed it for about a month with the understanding that we may be purchasing this piece of equipment. And at the time, we were right in the midst of capital budget deliberations. So of course, we had to wait for that process to unfold to see where we were in terms of purchasing of equipment in 2023. So all that to say, we were pleased to hear that this particular piece of equipment, they had three of them that they took back under a short-term lease or a 3-year lease with the City of Ottawa. The sidewalk machines were used by the City of Ottawa for grass cutting purposes, turf cutting, if you will. So they haven't been used for snow clearing, so they haven't been worked overly hard. The one has 245 hours, the other one has 350 roughly. The attachments would be brand new. Anyways, all that to say, we trialed the one machine. We coincidentally got the second machine today, and the first one went back. They're holding it for us should council direct to purchase these two machines. So we'll put it through its paces between now and whenever spring arrives. I'm sure we'll have lots of winter events to utilize a piece of equipment to put it through its paces to see how it performs. But we expect it would work and operate the same as the first machine, which staff are very, very happy with. Has all the right attachments, ribbon blower, which is the right piece of equipment for blowing snow. And like I said, these machines are very, very lightly used. You look at them, you think they were brand new. So all that to say, the two machines, we can get both of them. Taxes in for, just bear with me here a second. So with our net HST, which is 1.76%, about 178,995.84. The only thing I would say, the caveat to this would be in the resolution would be not to tie the amount to the 178, because I'm still considering maybe purchasing brand new ribbon blowers. The two that we've been trialing are demos, not to say that there's anything wrong with them, but brand new ones would be marginally more. So I would still like to keep the original 200 that was approved in the 2023 capital budget, just to give me a little bit of latitude to outfit them appropriately. So all that to say, I presume everybody's read the report. If there's any questions through the chair, I'd be happy to take them at this point.
Any questions? Mayor Panko, please.
Yeah, thank you, Director McMahon. I know we've had some challenges with our sidewalk equipment, and in this situation, it seems we're ultimately getting really, I guess, two slightly used for less than the price of one new one, or about the price of one new one, I guess, when it's fully outfitted. Based on the hours, I mean, what would you expect? Like 245 hours and 375 hours in the two units. What would we normally expect to get out of properly maintained? Would we get thousands of hours out of these types of machines? Like, are like, when you say barely used, I mean, they're used, I guess, over part of a few different summers to cut grass, but a lot of life left in them, I assume.
Yeah, so thank you, and through the chair. Yeah, so, my intention would be, with council's direction, of course, would be to not hang on to any piece of equipment, similar to what we're doing with our pickup trucks. Try to get them onto a 5-year cycle that we're, if we're not buying news, we're buying slightly used. Unfortunately, this one arrangement that JD Brule has with the city of Ottawa isn't a relationship that they have going forward. They'll have to wait till the tendering process comes out again in 3 years from now to get into that relationship, should they be the successful proponent. But that would be something that would be ideal for the town of Smith Falls, in so much that we could get slightly used machines. I would argue that 245 and 375 hours is roughly broken in on these machines. I spoke to the salesman last week at length, and he advised that these two machines in particular were taken under lease with the city of Ottawa and used as spares in the event of breakdown. So like I said, these were turf mowers outfitted with flail mowers to do trimming of their sports fields and whatnot. So like I say, they haven't been worked hard to push snow, to blow snow. So like I say, for all intents and purposes, they'd be broke in. But to answer your question, I'm not sure. I would think thousands of hours would be reflective of a piece of equipment that was in operation for winter control over 4 or 5 or 6 years, for sure.
So definitely good value.
Yeah, good value for sure. I've seen them with the one machine myself, and there's not a mark on it. The really nice thing about these pieces of equipment, contrary to the trackless machine that we operate at right now, the hopper on it for holding sand and different winter material is quite high. So you can't see out the back of it without looking, you're looking into a load of material in the back. Whereas this multi-hog machine has a really low profile dump box in the back that dumps into the rear spreader hopper, and it's low profile. So you can see 360 degrees all the way around this machine. Great viewing angles from inside the cab. They're 76 horsepower, so they're a heavy piece of equipment, lots of horsepower, driving that blower, pushing snow. No different than a trackless machine in that they articulate in the middle, so good for getting around different areas around town or downtown core, all the infrastructure we have down there. Any of the machines that municipalities employ for winter control for sidewalk machines are all in and around that $180,000 to $200,000 mark. So if we were to tender, considering going with the lowest price, we'd be paying roughly around that price for one machine anyways, regardless of who we went with. It just turns out that these particular machines, they were getting a good deal at $60,000 for the sidewalk machine itself, minus all the attachments. They're around 145 new. Then you start adding all the plow and the blowers, and that gets you up into that 180 to 200 mark. Yeah. So my recommendation would be the council approve the two purchases. That gets us to the point of having 4 machines. So we would divest of one, probably the Holder HOLDR machine that we employ right now. Our operators don't like it. It's very tippy. It's been on its side a number of times. It's very top heavy. It's prone to breakdowns. Parts for that machine are sourced out of Europe and very difficult to try to get parts and try to get maintenance on it. So that would be the piece of equipment we'd get rid of. And then we'd have two really good machines and then a somewhat older trackless machine that still got a couple of years left in it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Other questions? Councillor McKenna?
Just to say, I never thought I'd ever say this, just to say I support staff's recommendation to buy a couple of hogs.
Thank you, Councillor McKenna. Anyone else? Well, this sounds wonderful, Director McMunn, because I'm one of those crazy people. I kind of see some things that happen, and I was over at the work office one day, and the lads were having an awful time just finding shear pins that would work and stop cutting off. And, there they were wanting to plow and they couldn't get this piece of equipment operating. So this sounds like a great idea. And if you have these two brought in, that's certainly going to make clearing much easier. Yes, perfect. So thumbs up? I think so. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Move on. Terms of reference for Climate Action Working Group. And this is with planner Carl Grenke, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff are pleased to build on the work that has been done over the last number of months and years with respect to the Partners for Climate Protection program that we joined in 2019, as well as the work done throughout 2022 in developing the baseline emissions inventory for corporate emissions, which is part of the first milestone of that program. The previous council had directed that a climate protection working group be formed consisting of public members and other stakeholders to be tasked with developing recommendations for council consideration related to greenhouse gas emission reduction targets and initiatives to achieve the targets. At this point, staff are pleased to bring forward a terms of reference for a new advisory working group that would report to council and that will advance this work and consist of up to 6 members of the community, ideally with relevant subject matter expertise, as well as 2 council representatives. The draft terms of reference outlines a mandate and focus area, and that includes identifying one of the first orders of business would be identifying and recommending targets for greenhouse gas emissions, work and assist and guide the development of a local climate action plan, investigate, of course, opportunities and provide advice corporately and community and in the broader community with respect to emissions reduction targets, identify and develop partnerships. There's lots of non-governmental organizations that work in and around Smith Falls, and certainly I would imagine this working group would be keen to sort of build upon what's already done there, as well as identify funding and grant opportunities, provide advice and recommendations to staff, and also monitor, support, and guide the implementation of the town's tree canopy policy, which was adopted sort of recently in the last term, and looks at best practices. Certainly, from a community perspective, there's certainly harmony there with respect to more broadly looking at climate protection there. So the a key deliverable that implements the Partners for Climate Protection milestones is, of course, the action plan. The mandate of the working group would look more broadly to building capacity within our community to promote actions to fulfill the broader purpose of assisting council and the residents of the town on formulating and taking actions to reduce community-wide emissions and improve the resiliency of the community. So at this point, the recommendation of staff is that council adopts a bylaw approving the Smith Falls Climate Protection Working Group, and upon that adoption, staff would undertake we would be seeking membership in that committee, and we would report back to council when we are ready to appoint members. So I'll welcome questions and feedback from members of committee.
Do we have some questions, comments? Mayor Panko?
Thank you, Carl. I read this with great interest, and I'm very pleased to see this coming forward, and looking forward to this group carrying the ball on behalf of the municipality over the next term and maybe beyond. The only exception I have, I guess, relates to the membership, and I'm just wondering if you've identified members must be property owners or residential renters in Smith Falls, and well, I'm supportive of that in general. I'm wondering if there's a lot of people in the area with exceptional expertise on the impacts of climate change, people who've got great backgrounds in science, a very deep understanding, and very well informed. And if we have people like that who live in the general area or may use Smith Falls as their commercial center, I wouldn't want to maybe prevent them from being part of our group. I think there's some we may have a great people in our community who are share the same passion and the same knowledge, but I know Climate Action Network, as an example, Climate Action Lanark, sorry, has a number of people on there. They participated in the county's initiative who would bring great wisdom to our group. So I'm just wondering if we could maybe have the consideration to have maybe one person who may not be resident or a taxpayer in Smith Falls, but brings a certain level of expertise and knowledge.
And Councillor McKenna?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And I too support the mayor's suggestion. Maybe if council agreed, maybe if we worded it that the majority of community appointments would be from Smith Falls, or something that left the door open if there was that neighbor who brought a lot of expertise and passion, that we could accommodate that. So I would support that. My second thought was around the budget. And I don't know if this question is for you, Mr. Granke, or C.O. Morris. Could you remind me if we built in a budget for this committee in this year's operational budget? And if so, how much? And will it, because I would like to ensure that we've made it ready to hit the ground running, and that resources won't be a problem for them to, we don't want to wait 2 years for them to come up with a plan and put a budget in place. I can't remember in the details of the budget if we've allocated something towards this besides your valuable time, Mr. Granke.
CAO Morris?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so insightful question, Councillor McKenna, and the answer is no, we haven't budgeted anything in 2023. And the rationale behind that was that there's a lot of work to be done by the working group to identify targets and identify initiatives and so on. We would expect to be positioned to start preparing the action plan in 2024. And it's at that point we would likely require an external resource to help us with that. So nothing in 2023. We certainly plan on budgeting something in the 2024 draft budget. We won't know what that number looks like until we do the background and the groundwork in 2023.
if I could follow up, I understand that and appreciate it. And I know that we will also be able to leverage off of our colleagues at the Lanark County. So if there's a training seminar, something we could probably piggyback. And I know a lot of resources are available without cost. So that makes sense. Thank you very much. And I do support that, along with the mayor's caveat around allowing some flexibility for neighboring participation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just chime in and support staff's recommendation with the mayor's amendment, so to speak. So.
And I see a thumbs up, thumbs up. I think everyone is definitely in agreement here. So this will, the council will approve a bylaw, so you can move forward with this. Thank you, Planner Granke. I give you what you need.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee. Just to confirm the language there in the membership, I was just sort of bouncing off some wording. So where I have the text, citizen members will be property owners or residents or residential renters in Smith Falls. I can delete that. I can delete the wording there and begin that sentence with priority shall be given to applicants with relevant. Would council like to see priority given to property owners or residential renters in the town added to that, which would indicate a preference for town residents, but would not exclude an exceptional candidate who is a neighboring resident?
Yep, fine with me, Carl. We have thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Good.
Great.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go away. So the next are Heritage Conservation District, again with Planner Carl Granke, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm resuming or picking up a conversation from a couple of weeks ago where staff brought forward a proposal to council that we be directed to undertake a strategic planning process to guide how we as a town develop and promote heritage conservation services. The plan would be operational document that would help us look at how we undertake heritage planning, what tools are available to us, and look at the town as a whole and what we need to get there, and provide a strategic framework to help guide operational and policy approaches. The approach is supported in our official plan and will support us in our work of identifying the features that inform our history as a community, are inclusive to all of the stories and geographies of the town, and establish our sense of place as we move through an exciting period of change and growth. We staff firmly believe that that a strategic planning approach for heritage conservation is an important step to guide our work, and the question certainly that we're posing is where and when should we be undertaking the work. Through council's strategic planning process guiding your priorities this term, council will also be looking at undertaking a heritage conservation study that would investigate the development of a regulatory plan for a specific defined area, likely the downtown core. The timing and staging of that process, if included in the final strategic plan, will be determined through the implementation steps as we collaboratively look at our priorities, action items, and plan how and when they will be done and by who. Likewise, a strategic plan specifically for heritage conservation will be internally led and is our own. It is not a statutory document, which means we can define our own process, content, and timelines. While it is logical that an operational strategic plan that looks at the heritage service area as a whole can help inform a policy-based plan for a single area, it is also entirely conceivable that we can start the HCD process first if council prefers. There has been certainly work and investigation done on that over the past year or so. A heritage strategic plan is not a statutory prerequisite, and they can be done independently of each other or together. Likewise, and to further the conversation from last meeting, council may choose to focus on one heritage project at a time in consideration of work planning. Since the time the strategic plan for heritage conservation was first introduced in the fall, progress was also made on advancing the climate change file, and we're now ready to take that step. While planning staff are eager to get started on this important work, we advise that our resources, of course, limit our ability to undertake this, as well as both heritage projects at once. So we do find ourselves in a good position as an organization to have these important community advancing projects to look at, and all of them are valuable. However, to assist in guiding our own work planning for 2023, we will seek council's direction as to which of these you'd like to see get started on first. And as staff, of course, we will adjust our work plans and processes to align our operational priorities, and council's decision will assist in doing this. While this report focuses on the specific deliverable of the Heritage Conservation Strategic Plan, Council's discussion also looked at this within the context of broader heritage work planning. And at this point, we'll look for Council's direction as to whether the Heritage Strategic Plan is something that you would like to be initiated now, or alternatively, whether consideration of this project be deferred until after the broader Council Strategic Plan is completed, or at some later point. So while we identify the importance of the strategic plan and for heritage conservation, there is no particular urgency to do it, and certainly we're happy to fit that within the priorities and work planning that council has that council sets for us. So I'll look to you, Madam Chair, to provide us and sort of reinitiate that conversation from a couple of weeks ago, and we look forward to working with you on the next steps.
Thank you very much. Councillor McGuire, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks for coming back, Senior Planner Granke, with this. I know I spoke at length about it at the last meeting, so I'm not going to get into it to the same degree tonight, but I just wanted to let the committee know that I have had a chance to follow up with several members of the committee after the last committee, the whole meeting, and in anticipation for this one. And they watched the meeting, and the sentiments remains the same, that we need to be focusing on the Heritage Conservation District now, and that the strategic plan would be well suited once that study's been completed, and that major projects can inform the strategic planning process to set us off for the next 10 years. I think also, same as last time's discussion, I've got a big concern about how much bandwidth we've got for this kind of stuff. Tonight's meeting, we had the Climate Action Working Group just a minute ago. When we go back to Bill 23, we've got a huge change in how we designate properties. We've got the properties of interest list that Smith Falls has been using more often than actually designating the property. So we've got a long list there, and those properties are going to become delisted through Bill 23 after a fixed amount of time. And we're going to need to decide, are we going to designate those properties? Are we going to deal with them through something like a Heritage Conservation District? A high number of them are in the downtown core, and conceivably would be a part of the Heritage Conservation District study. So it would give us a really straightforward way of managing the highest density of those properties that we've got in town. I'm concerned that as you know, if we had unlimited resources, it'd be great to get this done and get everything done. But just all things considered, right now, in discussions with the returning members of the committee and looking at the report now for the third time, it's to me, we got to get this Heritage Conservation District done, and then we can focus on what our strategic plan is going to look like for the next 10 years. So that's my update.
Thank you. And Councillor Miller, please. You're on mute, Jennifer.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
That's fine.
I appreciate the committee's concerns and Councillor McGuire's comments. I'm also, a little concerned that this is really an operational decision for Senior Planner Granke's department, and so I trust that he can manage his team's workload on this. I always feel that good work starts with good planning, and so I appreciate this report and staff's recommendation, and to me the logical place to start is with a plan and then let the work begin. So that's really where I'm leaning.
Other comments? Mayor Pankow, please.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine if they happen in tandem. I think, but we want to make sure, I think, that we have the Heritage Conservation District study underway, so that work would be done the consultant would be hired and that process would be launched. If staff then had the opportunity, if it's the planning team has the opportunity to start work on a strategic plan for heritage. And I guess it's a question of staff capacity and timelines. And I do think that there's parallels obviously between the strategic plan and the district plan. And one would likely inform the other, or both would inform each other probably once they're both concluded. So I see some benefit of it being in tandem, but at the same time, it's a matter of, I say, of capacity. At the same time as well, I'd want to make sure that Municipal Heritage Committee was sort of involved in the process. I can appreciate this is more of an operational thing, but we lean on them because of their expertise and their passion, their knowledge. And so I would suggest that they would be sort of engaged in the launch of the process, engaged maybe at a midterm report stage, and before any final strategic plan would come forward. So I guess a mixed emotion here, and I turn back to Senior Planner Gransky, and I guess how do you feel about your team's capacity to manage both, as well as all the planning files that you have crossing your desk?
Carl, you have comments?
Well, I think I appreciate the feedback and the sentiments, and certainly what's been the feedback I've received this evening. It's there's no doubt. I think certainly with including the climate protection, that's a very important piece, and we'll certainly be ramping up later this year and into next year. That it would be difficult for us to, based on our own the work plan that we have that we're looking at right now, to undertake the three of them in tandem. So certainly if council feels that is very important, then we'll work together as a team to get it done the best we can. I think if we are looking at doing all three of them together, then certainly we'll have to stage them in such a way that the timelines will no doubt be affected in that regard. So I think at a broader, higher level, I'm certainly interested in council's feedback as to whether the strategic plan in particular, I can certainly appreciate the sentiment with respect to the Heritage Conservation District and with the changes with Bill 23, putting a little bit more pressure on the municipality with respect to the regulatory end, that changes the landscape a little bit from what we were looking at back in the fall. But certainly if council would like to see the Heritage Strategic Plan initiated as a matter of priority, then we'll certainly take that direction. But I think one can happen without the other.
Mayor Panko?
Yeah, I guess I appreciate the feedback, Carl. It really helps guide my thinking. And I mean, we've been our efforts against climate action have been underway since 2019, and certainly the pandemic and other priorities stood in the way of progress for a while. And now that we have a plan for how this will be resourced, and we'll be leaning on you and your department for that, I guess from a priority standpoint, I would put that ahead of a heritage strategic plan at this stage, at least until we get all that launched. And the Heritage Conservation District study obviously is going to be outsourced. So you're heavily involved in that, but in getting it going and guiding it, but the workload will not be the same as this. So if you're trying to stage and prioritize, I would put this third of those three.
Councillor Buchanan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And like Councillor McGuire, I spoke to this a couple of weeks back as well. And my first reaction when I read the report at that time was, there's more work here, and do we have the bandwidth to do it? And we brought that up. And then I'm really always reluctant to not follow, especially Mr. Granke's recommendations. I find he's more than competent and expert in his field, and I've always learned from him and taken the lead from his recommend. Rarely do I ever not support Mr. Grinke's recommendations. And on the other hand, we've got a Municipal Heritage Committee that is coming out and suggesting or intimating that they feel that that's not the #1 priority. So I am a little torn. So I want to ask you, Mr. Grinke, because you brought this to us, and I know you don't do things without careful and thoughtful consideration. Can you just tell me or tell council how doing this strategic plan, let's say in the relatively near future, led by you and your team, will make all of the other work, and I know you've written it in there, but how would, because this is important to you or you wouldn't have done it. So why is this, what is it, I guess, what's the value? And if it didn't happen right now or didn't happen at all, is this a major setback or slow down other aspects of your work? Because I can't help but think you didn't pull this out of thin air. You're seeing advantages to you and your work and your team's work in doing this in the sequence you've recommended. But could you just tell me, I guess from your gut rather than your planning head, why this is so important to you?
Yes, Carl, please.
So thank you. And the I think with the new term of council starting and a new municipal heritage committee starting and a lot of focus on heritage related pieces in the last couple of years, especially with respect to some developments and redevelopments that we've been seeing, and obviously with changes to Bill 23 that have been alluded to, I had put together a proposal for a heritage strategic plan as a broad catch-all document that sort of looks at heritage as a whole rather than responding to individual pieces or issues as they arise, and looks a little bit beyond simply the statutory processes that we follow under the Heritage Act in terms of listing and designating properties, but also looking at the community as a whole. And are there things that we can do? Are there different recognitions we can propose for certain areas that are outside of the statutory realm? So the staff recommendation was based on an acknowledgement that we have a real interest in focus in heritage, and this is an opportunity to sort of expand and broaden that focus to look at how we approach it from an overall perspective. I think there's no doubt that there's procedural improvements that we can make. We can look at updating applications for heritage alterations, look at creating processes and procedures as a whole. But the feeling is folding that within a broader strategic objective and a broader strategic plan would help give a little bit of some broader. These wouldn't be one-off projects. They would be they'd be considered within the realm of a whole, with a whole 5 to 10 year assessment of where we want to be in terms of heritage. So if we don't proceed with the strategic plan, or at least not yet, I think it's a valuable piece, and the key question is it something that needs to happen yet? If we don't proceed with it now and proceed with the Heritage Conservation District, then we'll certainly continue to do the work that we've always been doing. We can still have a look at those operational pieces and maybe look at how do we revisiting this question in the future. But I think it's fair to say that I cannot promise, I guess, the timely delivery of both the Heritage Strategic Plan and a Heritage Conservation District together in the immediate term. So I think certainly I appreciate the feedback from around the horseshoe as to which documents that the council feels should be pursued first. I hope that answers your question, Councillor McKenna.
If I may, Madam Chair, just to follow up, yeah, it does, and I thank you. And as I said, I don't think you would have brought it forward lightly. So let me just ask one more, is if we were able to accelerate or ease the, because we are concerned with bandwidth in your department, we all do, it's not, and it is operational, as Councillor Miller has said. Would the strategic planning process that we went through with Queen's Executive Decision Center done in a one-day accelerated, which we used for the strategic planning exercise, could it be accommodated with the work you want to do? And maybe you're not as familiar with that, but where you take with something that might take you months because you're doing it along with 50 other things, you and your team sit down for one day and get those priority items. It's quick and dirty, for lack of a better word, but is there a way to get that done and you've got the elements of your strategic plan, but it hasn't taken the months and the time and the energy, and it isn't just drawn out, and we could still, starting there, maybe, and I hope if you've been around with that exercise that we went through, it is the whole point of that is to accelerate these complicated issues and get them down into getting done in a day or two. And if you had that, I'm just trying to find a way to do both. So there's a little money involved, but it's very little in terms of what the time that you and your team would have to put into it. Right. Thank you.
Carl, do you have an answer for that?
Well, that's a fantastic suggestion, Councillor, and certainly I sat through one of the sessions that was facilitated by the gentleman from Queens, and it was definitely it was illuminating and a very enjoyable conversation that flew right by. We can certainly take that back to my team and investigate that option and see if that's something we can do. There is definitely that element of sort of some of that statutory element with respect to the Heritage Act that we'll be exploring as parallel to that, but perhaps and I'll look to CAO Morris for direction on the I guess the applicableness and the ability to potentially pursue a facilitated arrangement like that, if that would perhaps uncover a lot of the groundwork within a day.
CAO Morris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's a brilliant observation that we could accelerate it. I would just point out the fundamental difference between a corporate-wide strategic plan and a very specific one is that council has a political mandate to make those decisions, where staff doesn't necessarily have that. So this council just came off an election. You had the kind of your finger on the pulse of what the electorate wanted, and then we go out and we ground truth it and go out to the public. Where this one, I think it would be critical to get the right people at the room. I wouldn't see it necessarily as a staff only exercise. But I think I think it could be a mechanism to see this, to initiate this. I think what we've established, though, from what I've been hearing, is that generally there's support for all three. The heritage, the strategic plan, the heritage strategic plan, the heritage conservation district, and the climate change work. So I think with that in full view, I would suggest that staff go back and we put together our operational plans which we're doing right now. We'll have a sense for what the new strategic plan, the corporate strategic plan, is going to require in terms of resources. We'll overlay these projects and come back to you with a schedule to roll them out. And I have deep concerns about managing all three in unison, plus doing our day-to-day job, plus doing a lands needs study and a whole bunch of other stuff and things that will come across our desk tomorrow. So what I would suggest is we operationalize this and come back with a plan to move it forward, knowing that not all three can be done simultaneously. So if there's support for that, I would suggest we return with a execution plan.
Councillor McGuire, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair. and Thanks, CEO Morris. I think that's a great idea. Is it appropriate for us, if there's consensus, to give direction that the Heritage Conservation District is prioritized over the strategic plan, and that gets wrapped up or well on its way to being wrapped up before the strategic plan at this point?
It would be very helpful to understand which of those three council considers by consensus to be the most important one, or the most time sensitive one, rather. I think they're all important. Which one do you want done first? That would be my question.
So I still feel very strongly about that with thinking about Councillor McKenna's comments. If we did do something like you're suggesting, a quick version of it, anything that's going to involve any members of the committee, which I think it really should, is going to be focusing on a Heritage Conservation District, because that's been in the talks since well before I became a member in 2016. There's been multiple heritage symposiums with speakers. It's been the big target for over 10 years now. I think about we look at with the strategic plan and streamlining the operational side of the heritage alterations. I can think of 2 alterations we've looked at over the last, during my time on the committee, and it's been with the old post office and the Rideau Hotel. In turn, I can think of over 15 properties in the downtown core that are going to be delisted as properties of interest through Bill 23. So priority wise, that's where I really see this HCD as giving us good policy value going forward, and the strategic planning being secondary.
Thank you. Councillor McKenna.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was fine with the CEO Morris's suggestion of having staff come back. Once we start prioritizing tonight, I would rather hear from staff, because if you ask me to prioritize, I'm going with climate action and the climate crisis over everything. So I would prefer not to start prioritizing and asking staff in their resources and timing, and that they come back with the list, and then we can have that discussion rather than starting to do that, because I think we've taken some of the autonomy away from staff as soon as we start telling them how to do it tonight. So I appreciate what you're saying, Councillor McGuire. I just I'd love to see what staff could do. And after climate action, I'm going to say getting our properties built and the new development going, is right up there. So if you start getting me into that, anyway, so I would prefer not to be over directive right this moment.
Any other comments? I see a couple of thumbs up for CEO Morris coming back to us with recommendations from staff, and I certainly do hear the concerns of Councillor McGuire, and I'm kind of getting the feeling this isn't something that has to happen today. And we have a lot on our plate. So let's just slow down a little bit, and then we can make sure it happens and happens properly. So thumbs up for CEO Morris and staff coming back with recommendations. Right. And then we'll take it from there. We still can keep all our thoughts and bring them forward. Thank you. Okay. Moving on. This is with Chief Rosborough, please, or Chief Cheeseborough. get me going right here, please, Rick. I'm sorry. So this is shared service agreement for building inspection services, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My report will be brief tonight. I'm seeking council's approval and the recommendation moving forward to make 2 amendments to a bylaw that council approved on November the 7th, 2022. The amended agreement will include the name Brian Gass as a building inspector to assist with the inspections. And the commencement date of the agreement will be February the 28th, 2023. It shall be for a period of 1 year. At that time, we will revisit it and determine the necessity of continuing with the agreement or terminating the agreement at that time. So the recommendation tonight is to accept those 2 minor amendments to the bylaw that was previously submitted in 2022.
Councillor Miller.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Am I safe in assuming we're continuing our recruitment for a building inspector as well?
Yes, you are, through the chair. That is correct. We are continuing to look for a chief building official and or building inspector as well.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? We see a thumbs up, I do believe. We got thumbs up. Sounds great. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And our next one is with Director McMunn, and this is pertaining to yard clearing for the water tower.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief on this one. This was a late report. This was a late report that I drafted this afternoon following getting some quotes back from 3 local contractors to clear the site across from what we know as the Public Works Garage at 11 Aircare Drive. So in the report, which I believe you received prior to this meeting this evening, I showed a picture on the front of it with the 1.7 acre piece of land that's going to be the site for the new water tower. That site's fairly heavily treed. It obviously needs to be cleared in order to get to construction at some point this summer, early fall. As we know, we awarded the design and tender preparation to EVB Engineering. So we've been in contact with them as well, and they'll be starting to pull the resources together to start on the design works for that. So this is kind of the first kick of the cat, if you will. We've identified the site through the municipal class EA. Have to clear the site, obviously, for works to progress. So that's what this report's about. The 3 different contractors I reached out to locally were Kevin Nolan Trucking, Capital Land Clearing Limited out of Frankville, fairly close to Smith Falls, and then Campbell's Trucking. So the prices are $21,000, $28,750, and then $38,000 respectively. So I'm recommending to go with Kevin Nolan Trucking. He provided a price of $21,000 plus HST, and that's a lump sum price to clear, grub, and to remove all the brush from the site.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm in support of the staff's recommendation. Director McMunn, a bit of a separate question. When the time comes, are there design options we can choose from for the water tower, or is there like a provincial or federal standard that has to be used?
Through the chair, great question. I presume there aren't a plethora of different options. We're probably fairly limited. I understand that Landmark, who coincidentally did some repairs on our water tower over the last year with a couple of holes that we sprung, they're kind of the main contractor provider, if you will, that fabricate the water towers. So I can't really answer your question. I'm not sure if there's an opportunity for much in the way of design options. We're probably fairly limited in the style, but certainly if there is different options that we can look at. We know that we have to have a certain volume of water, and it's going to be obviously in an elevated storage tank. How it's supported has yet to be seen, I guess, and that'll come as a result of the design. So Councillor Miller, I would ask you what just so I know when I'm speaking with EVB Engineering, what exactly do you mean by design options? Are you talking about look?
It is, it's a superficial question, and I apologize to some degree, but we do have we were just talking about heritage, and we have a very interesting water tower with a lot of history, and there's so few left of them. And the more we talk about the water tower situation, the more I'm coming to terms with understanding that the chances of us saving that are slim. And of course, now everywhere I go, I'm looking at a town's water tower. So it's just planting seeds in my head as our conversation goes on this year. So I'm sorry to sideline tonight's discussion, but that's just some of the things that are going through my head as we get down the road with this project.
Yeah, so just to follow up to that through the chair, if there are design differences, I guess you'd say, maybe some of them could, like I said, I wouldn't suspect there's a plethora of them. There might be a couple of different options we could look at. Whether or not they'd be historic and look and feel as yet to be seen. I would suggest that probably isn't so much an option at this point, but we'll let the process unfold and we'll see what EVB comes up with.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
other, Councillor McKenna?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't let any report go by tonight without saying something. I support staff recommendation. A couple of questions. One is that in the map that you accompanying the report, the 1.1 acre, is that the extent of our property there? Is there any benefit really to widening the grubbing and the clearing beyond, or that's just all we need and that's all we're going to do?
Yeah, so through the chair, so Councillor McKenna, we do, if you're looking at the image that was provided, to the left of that, the swath of trees goes all the way up to Lawrence Street. We do own a portion of land adjacent to that pathway, that right of way, if you will, where the existing water main is. So to the left of that 1.7 acre parcel. That said, I didn't want to bite off more than we can chew here. I just assume not clear any more trees than we have to. It's not so much about the cost, but I think we can work with the 1.7 acres. At least for now, we get that cleared. If we have to expand on it later on, like next summer or next fall, then we can certainly do so. But my feeling at this point, based on the municipal class EA, that was a portion of property that was identified. We do own lands to the north of that, I guess, like closer to Lawrence Street, that we can expand into should the need arise. And again, that'll be informed from the design and the constructability of the tower. So this will get us well underway, I guess, is my point.
Thank you very much. And as I say, I do support your recommendation. And I think what Councillor Miller was trying to get at is she envisions a giant golf ball with the world's greatest golfer on top of that water tower. So those are the kind of things that I think we're expecting.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So we're in support of staff recommendation. Thumbs up. We are. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mayor Panko, for stepping out during that part of the meeting. Now you're back, and now you've got to get me organized again. So now we'll go back up to the top here, and we're going to go into in camera. So the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls, as provided in section 2392 in brackets, E in brackets of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, move into a closed meeting at 6:24 p.m. to discuss a litigation matter. And I need a mover and a seconder on that, please. And I have Councillor Robinson and Councillor McGuire. Thank you very much. And we will move in camera.
We'll just get the screen taken down there, Madam Chair, and then we can resume to,
That's absolutely fine. It's a good job you're doing it all because you've got it under control.
I'm not too sure about that. Anyway,
You are.
all right, so
Okay.
I'm just gonna confirm that everybody came back. All right, it looks like we've got everyone, Madam Chair, so you can proceed with the, that we're back in open session.
Okay, so it just the recommendation that council revert into open session at 6:55 PM. And mover and a seconder, and that was Councillor Robinson and Councillor McGuire. And the rise and report is that staff has been given direction about a legal matter. And that's all for this evening. Are we nothing else? We move into adjournment. That the committee adjourn its proceedings at 6:56 PM and stand so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council. And I need a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Stevenson and Councillor McGuire, thank you very much. We have got through this meeting and I thank everyone with all their help